Hey everybody, and welcome back to the letter V 6 times. And last time, well, we rescued Victoria. And what we found there, well, aside from her, were a couple trinkets and a clue as to what area we could go to next, which is actually an area we've been to before. The yellow area, which has Professor Vitellary. If you were looking close at the map, you can tell that we can't get there going to the right. It's all walled off by a big shaft, so we're going to make our way to the left. And truthfully, most of the level entrances are in counterintuitive places. You have to work your way over there. To be honest, it doesn't really add that much. You know, it's cool to explore. It actually is fun. But at the same time, it's not challenging, and occasionally you get to branching paths that, well, they're a little bit of time wasters. Whenever I play this game, I'm always really tempted to try and fill in every map square, which is useful when you're first learning where things are, but most map squares don't add that much, so I'll try to take it easy. But we have seen already that we're on the track, given that the textures to the upper area, well, they actually look really similar to the first area that we were ever in. It's the kind of landscape that I think would be really good if you were a goldfish, like, oh, I think I'll go over to the wide open area. Oh, there's this textured area. I never knew this was there. Oh, there's this wide open area. I never knew that was there. And what's this? So, we're already rescued, so there's no particular reason for them to be a viridian-colored area, but apparently there's some research going on in there. And I'll be sure to spend some extended time in there because everybody finds research really exciting. You know, the scientific method of let's explore this dimension and find out information. Oh, there's a monitor. Let's watch TV instead of doing research right now. So apparently somebody's writing these different clues or memoirs who's clearly not here anymore because we haven't encountered any other critters. But we're not sure exactly what happened. Something's weird about this funny dimension that we're in. Ah, it's more research. It's not actually television. Okay, some kind of feedback. Okay, so the green area. That area is going to be a little bit counterintuitive to get to as some of the other ones are, but, you know, here we are. So we check the map. This is the entrance as advertised. Let's just get the show on the road, and we'll figure out green later. Alright, new ideas. So, back to the actual game. This is an element that I think was briefly in the first level, maybe not so much. Maybe it was visible. But what this does is, so for example there, it takes some challenges you've seen before. We've collected a trinket where you had to walk upside down onto moving platforms in the first level. But it takes the ideas and it makes them more challenging. It's kind of an extension of what you learned to begin with. And I think that's good. There are actually some points where you'll be able to compare directly what you did in the first level and what we're doing here. Just a little bit of tricky timing there. You more or less have to just ride it out and then hold right until you... Great. Death traps. So there's some things where you do have to maneuver just a little bit better. You just have to improve your skills. But this level has a little bit more in terms of death traps than your typical one. But of course we're done with those because now it's plain sailing. I hope you enjoyed the level, and next time we'll... yeah, we're not done at all. This is actually the longest level in the game. This has the most trinkets and it is the most challenging, and you can see we're already on top of another one. So we got to figure out how to get all the way down there. Of course, this is named after Gordie Howe, the famous hockey player who famously tied his stick into knots in order to make things more difficult for his opponents, somehow, I'm sure. So some of the things that are just tricky about this are just better movement. So you've got to get on here, and you've got to you can't just walk straight through. You have to let off the gas and then keep going. And I find this actually pretty challenging. But it's even challenging to just get on the platform in the first place to get a running start. You kind of have to trial and error it for a little bit. There are some ways to get around these platforms that are quicker than what I'm doing, but this is definitely, well, aside from that, this is the safest option. There are some ways to make a quicker transition, but maybe I'll show those off later. And that's 2. There are 5 total in this area, and this area has some of the most notorious trinkets in the whole game. I'm not sure what exactly is meant by the truth and lies. I can only assume that at the end there's some kind of trial where you've got to figure out, which obstacles were telling the truth and which ones were lies. I think there's some kind of logic puzzle element to it. And there we're not done. There's lots of different, for lack of a better term, halfway points. That symbol to the right kills you if you run into it. It's not just background. And apparently we found his live journal. That's great. I'm sorry this made you so sad. Now if you check out up here, alright, there's more sad live journal stuff, but that's actually an area that we visited previously. I'll show you more later. And we are seeing other familiar things. That box, the concentric squares, that's really similar to where we teleported in, and actually really similar to the area just outside of where Victoria was. So it's kind of an indicator of why we would have ended up where we did when we transported randomly in the beginning. And so we'll take the quick way out of this and show you a little bit more of this area. See, we don't have to go back through the mine. I wonder what lies beneath. Game definitely starts throwing more just death traps at you, which is frustrating in a way. Fortunately, again, you don't lose that much by dying, except a little bit of time. But there are better puzzles than this. So, and right now I just want to make my way back over to show what was in this other room here, and yeah, more death traps. So if you don't know that that's down there, you're pretty much relying on luck to not die. Again, deaths are not terribly punishing, so it's more frustrating. It's not really difficult as much as it is just kind of a, kind of a mean thing to do. But it keeps you on your toes. This is more fun though, because you do have to time it, and it actually is tight. I mean, you have to hold right, and then you have to, well, you have to flip yourself back down really rapidly. So the timing is tight and kind of reflexy. It's kind of got that reflex plus puzzle element to it that tends to make these games pretty good. And again, kind of more puzzling. You're trying to figure out, okay, where can I stand safely? That's certainly not one of the places you can do that. And you can just see overall the level of difficulty is really just picked up. Yeah, great moves. Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's just get out of here. That's not good at all. But okay, so now we've seen this area a little bit before. This is another challenging. It's just challenging because these move faster and the window is a lot tighter to get through than anything we've seen up to this point. The checkpoint at the beginning of this room helps. Although, I feel obligated to point out that the developer does take about a dime out of your PayPal account every time you die in this room. It's kind of a hidden feature. As rates go, I guess that's not so bad, which is more than I can say for this part. This is probably what we're going to is the most notorious trinket in this game. It is, well, nasty. Because blue men can't jump, we're going to have to go through that whole spike maze. And come on, that's just spitting in my face. We're definitely going to prove that wrong. I think the level titles here are actually pretty good. There is a point that I'll show you where it's just kind of a mean trick. But this combines a lot of different things. You know, you have to use some of your memory. That's the dirty trick in the green section, which is if you were to go down to the right, yep, you're landing on spikes and there's no way to get yourself out of it. So close. But the first time I did this, it probably took me about a half hour to actually just get this trinket, because there's a combination of memorization and then really tight execution. You know, it's if you don't really know your mechanics yet, and you don't know, there's a little bit of momentum that he has to generate before he can actually start moving left or right, then it's going to get really hairy. But the plus side of that is solving a puzzle like this really improves your ability to do future obstacles. And don't hold left there as much as you might want to. That's the most sad thing possible. But yeah, we took care of this. Ha! Let's get the heck out of here. Also, good news, you never have to come back here. It's just and like other trinkets, it's totally optional. You really don't have to collect that one. This is probably pretty familiar. That's the teleporter that we took when we quote-unquote rescued Violet. You actually can, in an area I'll show in just a second, you can work your way back to that teleporter, but your first time through in this area, that's a really bad idea, because you're making all this progress towards rescuing somebody, and then if you take the shortcut out, there's actually no way to get back, because you can't board that platform. But, yep, there's more or less well, we've still got a ways to go around, but we're almost completing the map. And coming up here, after we get another plot explanation, is another interesting area. These are some areas that we've seen before, and if you compare the top to the bottom in this room, you can really see just how far you have to come to be able to do these challenges. This one's the easiest if you just hold left all the way to begin with, and this one, unlike the top one, you really have to lay off the gas some. So it's a matter of just reading and understanding it correctly. Now, this trinket isn't as notorious as the previous one, but I find it a lot harder. That trinket can only be collected by using one of these platforms up towards the top as a moving platform, the one that shifts from left to right. And in order to activate that, you have to knock out those platforms in front of it, and in order to do that, you have to get back to that room and then die to be able to respawn at the checkpoint and actually use the platform. To make a long story short, the deception is that you can't use checkpoints, and to make them really easy to hit, which, that's great, now I have to make my way back. The other deception is these bow ties. As you can see, Captain Viridian really doesn't overdress for things, so if you collect one of those, he'd sooner die than actually attend something that he had to wear a bow tie to. And that's just me being horrendously uncoordinated. Yes, I won't attend your frou-frou dinner, sorry. But this is another way that they increase the difficulty without adding some gimmick or something like that. And it's actually in a really fun way. You know, some of the puzzles that we've done so far have been, relatively speaking, easy because there are so many checkpoints. So you can get into a playstyle where you don't really care about deaths at all, and there's no reward for avoiding deaths except your time. In this case, now you have to avoid deaths to get rewarded, and you have to avoid checkpoints. And I really like it. It explores it to its maximum. That was pathetic. Let's just kind of cut ahead here. Okay, let's take this seriously. I find this really tricky. It's not the same in terms of the one unified puzzle feel. This is combining a lot of different things. You know, you have to be able to handle moving platforms and moving enemies, and it's a string of moderate challenges that then becomes pretty bad. So we've still got our checkpoint activated. Let's go ahead and take the death, and here we go. Alright, let's take a quick look at, well, me dying again. Let's take a quick look at how you would complete this without caring about the trinket. That's a lot easier. This room, the difficulty doesn't change, but the sense of security does. And then that maneuvering is a lot less tight because you have more area that you can work with. And here we are. Again, Captain Meridian, really not the sciencey-est. Apparently neither am I. Alright, let's get the heck out of here. Alright, good rescue. Let's go back to the ship and see... Well, I guess we can start seeing where we can rescue Verdigris? The green guy. Looks like that's going to have to wait.